Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Terry Bello from the new Radio 1039. It's Black History Month. In honor of Black History, we're going to tell you a little history. I am honored because I have Miss Walker Smith. She's an author. We're going to talk about a couple of books, but she did the biography of Mr. Jack Gibson, a.k.a. Jack the Rapper. Hi, Walker.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well.
Good.
So you got to tell us about your book right here.
Yep.
Jack Gibson.
This is Jack Gibson's book. He, from his own mouth.
Now, if I can, I'm a product of Jack the
Yes.
Rapper. And anybody who knows music, who knows radio, we used to go to the conventions, call it family affair. So you're about to tell us what inspired you to do a book on Mellow Yellow, Mr. Jack Gibson, may he rest in peace.
He actually did the book with me. He was alive. He was looking for somebody to help him write the story of his life.
Right.
And he had gone through a couple of people and was disappointed. And I was in the middle of writing a novel. And so I didn't really do biographies, but I said, well, he's lived through a lot of history when I found out more about him. And I said, it wouldn't be too far off what I usually do. So I submitted something to him. I interviewed him and submitted him a little sample. And I said my idea was to start each chapter with a song. And he liked that idea, and he liked the way I wrote it in his voice. And so he hired me. And so we did it. And we're 2 years on it.
So tell us some things about Jack the Rapper in the book. We don't want to give it away. I want to look at it for the audience right here. That's Jack Gibson. Tell us a few things about this right here.
Well, first of all, he started off, he was born in 1920. So
Right.
he was the rapper before anybody else was a rapper. He actually, one thing I found interesting was in my first book, The Color Line, I have a lot about Marcus Garvey in it because it's set
Right.
during the Harlem Renaissance. His father was Marcus Garvey's personal doctor, his physician.
Really?
Yeah, that's how long ago Jack was around. So that was his first historical little thing I found out. Then also in 1949, when he got into radio, he was not only one of the first black DJs, but he and J.B. Blayton opened the first black-owned radio station in the United States, and that was big.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
huge.
This says Mellow Yellow, the incredible life story of Jack the Rapper, also told Walker Smith, star maker, pioneer of black radio. Tell us the story about James Brown.
James Brown idolized this man. He did a lot for James. He got his record played. I mean, you have to read the book, but there are a lot of things when James was first starting out. Jack helped him. He made sure he got on shows. Shows that he emceed. He was also a big MC back in the day. And he helped him out with radio play. He made sure he got played. He did a lot for him. And as you read at the bottom of that front, James Brown gives him only second billing to God. He said he thanks two people for making him a star, God and Jack the Rapper. So that's pretty good.
You know, one of my favorite, here's my Jack the Rapper story. I was 17 years old, snuck into the conference. All right, a couple of years later, I'm on a panel.
Wow.
A couple of years later, I'm on the board of directors.
All right now.
A couple of years later, I'm running my own music conference.
There you go.
And had the pleasure of his daughter, Jill Gibson, who really asked me to maybe run Jack the Rapper one day. So I'm thinking about it.
That is great.
And I brought this for you before we talk about something else. I was given this. This is a book on black radio.
Okay.
So I'm going to loan this to you. Let you
Okay.
read it.
I would love to. And
Because that was
autograph on the back.
It was signed. It was signed. So tell us a little bit about the offer. Because before you were a book writer, I understand you were in the music business.
Yes, I was.
So tell us about Walker Smith.
The best thing about that was he didn't remember me. I met him when I was a singer. I was signed to the Casablanca label.
How many albums did you put out?
I put out 3. Put out 3. But don't strain yourself. You probably didn't hear me. I got on the charts, but I didn't get in the top 10. You know, I was okay. It's a long story with that. But I really always wanted to write. So I was not too brokenhearted when things started not working out, and I just went back to my writing, because that's always what I wanted to do. But I did meet him at one of the conferences. I was introduced to him when I was a recording artist. He didn't remember it. Years later, when someone introduced me to him as a writer, and I was getting that shot to write his book, I was glad he didn't remember me, and so then I didn't tell him.
Right.
'Cause I didn't want him to base it on that. You know?
Right.
I didn't want him to think of, oh, she's a singer, she can't write, anything like that. I just wanted it to be based on my talent.
Mm-hmm.
So he hired me. We did the book. 2 years later, we got very close. We became very, very good friends. He called me Father Walker because he was Catholic. Jack was Catholic.
Right.
And he called me Father Walker because he said every time he talked to me, he felt like he was going to confession. And so at the end of it all, after 2 years, I finally told him, I said, Jack, we met before. And I explained the circumstances, and he was floored, and he laughed. He got such a kick out of that. That's perfect that you were a singer. I had no idea. And it was great. It was nice.
So here we are, 2015, present day, Black History Month.
Yes.
The author, you have a book. You actually have 2 books, but tell us about your books. But I'm curious to know about The Colored Line.
The Colored Line, that was the book I was working on when I stopped with that, the research on that, to work on his book. That is a book I wrote about. I just wanted to write a book about the Harlem Renaissance. But as I was researching, I kept finding out about these soldiers in World War I called the Harlem Hellfighters, the 369th. They were heroes. They were big heroes 25 years before the Tuskegee Airmen, but nobody knows about them. Nobody knows their story. And that's what I like to do. That's my whole hook, is I write the most unknown Black history I can find.
Wow.
And so their story needs to be told. And so I'm still trying to promote that book. I'm meeting with General James, who is one of the historian of the 369th. I'm meeting with him tomorrow to talk, and I'm really thrilled about that.
And your other book is about jazz?
The other book is a Cain and Abel story because I wanted to write about the divisions. They're 2 boys. They're born 1927. They're twins. One is born dark. One is born light enough to pass for white. That's the best Cain and Abel story you could come up with, is everybody fights over race. So one of them wants to pass, and he goes off to New York City during the 52nd Street scene when bebop was the thing, and everybody was going to New York. And he's passing for white, and he's singing jazz. So I get the jazz element in there. The other guy, they're fighting all the time. Before he leaves, the dark-skinned guy, as you might guess, was beating the hell out of him, and he blows the light-skinned guy blows town, so the dark-skinned guy goes to prison for killing him.
Wow.
No body, but they figured he had to have killed him. They were always fighting, and So then things go. There's a lot of things that happen, a lot of surprises, and it's a novel. Eventually, he does get out of jail, and the cat and mouse thing begins, and it's very Cain and Abel, but it's also very soulful, and there's a lot of wonderful music in it. It's jazz. If you love jazz,
can't wait
you'll
to
love
read
this book.
it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Ms. Smith, where does the passion come from to dig down in history and write about these historical, especially Jack the Rapper. Thank you, by the way, being a radio junkie, a cool nerd.
Yeah.
'Cause I love to read.
We all know.
But where does the fire and the passion come from?
Just being upset. I think the first time I felt that real spark was when I got out of high school and I went to the public library, and I was always reading. I was a big reader. But I went and I somehow stumbled over a newspaper article about Fidel Castro coming to America right after he overthrew Batista in 59 or 60 or something like that. He came to America, and he stayed at the Teresa Hotel in Harlem.
Right.
And he met with Malcolm X, and he met with
Wait, back up.
Khrushchev.
Fidel Castro met with Malcolm X?
And Khrushchev, Nikita Khrushchev, who was the big Russian enemy at the time, in Harlem, in the Teresa Hotel. And I'm reading this going, now, that's kind of stunning, and how come I never learned this before? And I was angry that I had never been told that before, because that's history. But that's some of that unknown history.
You're Black history for real.
I'm really, I dig way down. I dig all the way down. And then I was just hooked. It was like some people like to sit and listen to music. Some people like to paint. I like to dig for those. And I found a black flying ace in that book also when I was researching it. In World War I, he flew one of those old biplanes, and he shot down Germans for the French because America hadn't gotten into the war yet.
Right.
His name was Eugene Bullard. They called him the Black Swallow of Death. And he was shooting down German planes. He was flying for the French Foreign Legion. So then America got into the war, and they called all their guys back who were working for the RAF and for all the other countries. They called them, okay, now you have to come fight for America. Sign up. So he came and reported for duty. And they looked at him, and he said, I'm here to fly planes. I can shoot down Germans. I'm good at it. They said, no, you can't. You're black. You can't fly a plane. They grounded him. And the rest of his life, he did things like he flew some of that barnstorming. They used to do wing walking and all that. He did all that for a living for the rest of his life, even though he should have been in the war. He wanted to be in the war. And I wanted to tell his story. He's in the book, too. That's some unknown history. Most people don't know.
It is.
About
I'm
him.
talking to the camera now. It is a beautiful thing when women know history. All right? What is next for Walker Smith? You have 3 outstanding, beautiful books. We're promoting Mellow Yellow, Jack the Rapper, a radio icon, convention leader, help discover, open up the doors for so many people like James Brown, open up the door for me and so many others. What is next for you?
I'm working on another one. This is set in the civil rights movement. days, but everybody wants to write about the South. There was a lot going on in Chicago.
Yes.
And I want to focus on Chicago.
Yes.
Because, again, everybody knows about the Edmund Pettus Bridge and the marches, and they know about Rosa Parks. They know all those.
Right.
I'll talk about that too, but I'm going to also talk about what was going on up in Chicago.
People forget Emmett Till is from Chicago.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of history.
That's right.
New York, too, has a lot of history
Yes,
about
it
the
does.
civil rights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to reach out to you, follow up, keep up with you on the books, how can they reach out to you?
My website is www.walkersmithbooks.com. These books are all available on Barnes & Noble online and also in the New York store. I believe they have them now. And on Amazon and all the places where you can order books. Any place you want to go, order them.
Miss Walker Smith, Black History Month.
Yes.
Your walking knowledge of history. We appreciate you. You're so necessary.
Thank
you know this
you.
is my new favorite book, right?
All right now.
So I'm going to hold on to that. Take good care of that. Take your time with that. I think you're going to love that. That's a book on Black radio pioneers.
Yeah. That was the station.
That's what, that's what we do.
This is great.
Everyone, it's Miss Walker Smith. I'm Terry Bello, Black History Month, right here for the new Radio 103.9.